Alexa, turn on the heat storm. Welcome back to another Jeff Reviews for you. And as you can see in this video, we are looking at the heat storm. It's a wall-mounted space heater. You know what? Enough talk. Let's get right into this review. Here's our heat storm infrared heater. Of course, this is PHX Wi-Fi version. I purchased this, as per this video, right over $100. Let's open this up to see what it looks like. Unboxed, you can see the heat storm itself. I really appreciated this particular version because I liked how sleek this heater looked, at least from the pictures, and it does not disappoint when I've unboxed it. You also see that we have a template right here, and one of my favorite things about this template, it has an included level, so when you go to screw these holes into the wall or drill the holes in the wall, you know they're going to be level. That's important. There's a remote control, some mounting hardwares, and some directions. If you take a look at the back of the heater, you can see that there's actually a compartment that you can store most of the plug if you don't want to utilize all of it, and that's really a cool feature. The only thing I don't like about this is right now the plug comes on the right side. There is no notch or anything over here on the left side, which is actually where I want it because my plug will be on the left side of this heater. I kind of wish they would have thought about putting a notch on the left and the right, but you're going to have to run it out of the right side, maybe tuck some under if your plug is on the left like mine. I plugged this in and actually turned it off because it immediately turned on because I wanted to go through some of these settings together. So the power button is right here. It's pretty receptive and responsive to touch. I wanted to go into some of the settings first. If you actually want to change this from Fahrenheit to Celsius, what you're going to do is you're going to hold the plus and minus button together. Let's do that now. After about 5 seconds, you can see that it turned to Celsius, but if you want to turn it back, you just hit those same two buttons together again. And now we're back to Fahrenheit. Also, we can see the controls here. You can either go plus or minus on the temperature. You have the lowest you can go is 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the highest you can go is 99 degrees Fahrenheit. You can also see this little fan button. It goes between high, low, auto, and of course it goes back to high again. I appreciate some of the safety aspects that they have here. There's a child lock feature. You can see this little lock button. You just push and hold that for about 3 seconds, and what it does is it'll absolutely lock all of the different functions. I can't do anything here on this entire unit because it's locked out. Of course, to unlock it, we just push and hold that button again for another 3 seconds. If you wanted your heater on, but you didn't want this screen to be lit, you just push this button on the bottom left. That shuts the screen off. And of course, to turn that right back on, you push that button again. Now that just turns the screen off. If you want to turn the unit on and off, you just hit this button on the top right, which is the power button. That brings us to the button on the top left, which is the timer button. Of course, it enters into this menu item, which you can just do plus or minus to change between how many hours you want this thing to run. It goes from 0, which is not on at all the way up to 24 hours. You notice when we go out of this though, that green is still lit right here. That's because the timer is still set. In order to turn that off, you actually have to bring this all the way down to 0. And of course, our timer button is no longer lit green. That brings us to this button on the bottom right, and that's if you don't want to hear the sound of the beeps, you just push that button, and of course now we don't hear the different beeps. That's actually pretty convenient because the beeps can be annoying, but if you like the beeps, push it and turn it right back on. It should be noted that this button is actually multi-functions. Yes, it also turns the beep on and off, but you know what? If you push and hold it for about 5 seconds, what you're gonna see is a little red light start to blink next to the number 8 right there. That's if you have an external thermostat that you wanna connect this to. It does not come with this unit, but that's how you were to do it, because now it's in programming mode. I, of course, don't have one of those, so I'm just gonna let that cycle through just so you see it ended right there. It's no longer in pairing mode. I'm going to actually go and install this now. The directions tell us that this is not intended for an area that has humidity or moisture, meaning your bathroom, but it's great for offices or bedrooms, either as a secondary heat or a primary heat. On the primary heat, they recommend 120 square feet, but a secondary heat source is up to 700 square feet, just so you know, at least for measuring your room size of what this thing can actually do. We are going to install our space heater right here. So I have the template out, and this is where I'm going to mark off the 4 holes. I think this is a good location. I've actually had a previous space heater hung here, and you can see some of the previous holes there. So this will sort of cover those, I think, with the space heater in place. So let's set this up and draw our holes, then drill it out. We have our heat storm installed. I've only have the top 2 screws set in place so far. I want to make sure I liked it here before I locked it into place. So what I'm going to do now is I'll attach the bottom clips that came with the heat storm and then screw in the bottom pieces. This little clip actually just goes right underneath here on the heat storm, You push it up and lock it into place, and then you put a screw right on in there, and that should tighten everything down. We want to connect our heat storm to our app, so we have the Life app already downloaded and up and running. So right up here on our unit, we're going to push and hold this button on the bottom left. That does two different things. What we're going to do is hold it for about 5 seconds. And now, of course, at the top, our Wi-Fi button has been enabled and is glowing. On the app, let's hit plus, add device. It's now scanning nearby devices, and look how fast it already found our heat storm. Let's click that. Once you enter your password for your 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, the unit should start loading into your app. In just a matter of minutes, we are all set with our app. You can see that we have our current temperature set for this heater at 65 degrees Fahrenheit, but the room is showing 69 degrees Fahrenheit. I have now turned the heater off to this room specifically, so this should start to drop because we actually want to see if we can heat up this space, which is about 120 square feet. You can see right here from the app, we have a lot of different features that we can use. In fact, it's all the same features that are on the unit itself. We can turn it on and off, and look how responsive that is. I can change the fan setting. I can do all the different things on the screen there that I can do right here, and I really do appreciate that. And I love how responsive it is when I'm actually selecting the different settings. I'm going to leave the heater in the room for 30 or so minutes. Just let it acclimate to the actual temperature before we test the heat source. I've actually let this sit in the room overnight because I really wanted to make sure we had an accurate temperature. And for the most part, the temperature on the heat storm is matching up to an external thermometer that I have. It's off by a degree or two from time to time, but it's pretty much the same. What I'm going to do now is, because it's reached only to 66 degrees Fahrenheit, I thought it was going to get lower. I'm going to put this heater up to maybe 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a lot warmer than I typically would do, but I want to see, one, if it could raise the temperature in this room, but two, how fast it will go. So let's come back when that temperature starts to go up. It's only been 3 minutes, and as you can see, the thermostat right here on the heat storm is climbing much faster than my external thermostat. Remember, we only set this to go to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. In just about 3 minutes, this is already reading 72. Whereas this thermostat is reading at 67. It just might take a little more time for this one, but it is interesting how fast the temperature of the heat storm has been read as compared to the other one. But they are both climbing. While the heater is on, you can see the red coils that are in there, and there is hot air coming out from the heat storm. Now, you cannot adjust these at all. It just blows out hot air. The directions tell us that this is hot to the touch, and the plastic around the vent is not, and this is a little warm in the front, but it doesn't hurt to necessarily touch it, although I would recommend keeping your hands off of it. The directions do recommend having this at least 3 feet away from any curtains, any blankets, or any other combustible materials. I want to get a quick scan of the actual heat coming out of there. Check out how hot it actually is in those elements. Wow, that is really, really hot. This is interesting. It's only been 5 minutes since we started this test. The heat storm just clicked 75, meaning it reached its max temperature. Of course, it just dropped down to 74. My Accurite is showing at 69 degrees Fahrenheit. It is definitely getting warmer in this room. I'm pretty impressed with how fast the temperature is raising. I'm interested to see, though, if these will once again align over time as far as the actual temperature of this room, but it definitely is a lot warmer. We've been on for just about 12 minutes, and as you can see, the temperature on the external thermometer is reading at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. It is definitely warming up. I'm pretty impressed with the heat storm raising the temperature of our room by about 10 degrees in just such a short period of time. I'm going to check back in when this actual thermometer reaches 75 degrees Fahrenheit as well. Wow, in just about 20 minutes, our external thermometer has now read the same temperature as the heat storm. It is 75 degrees Fahrenheit in this room. This thing did a great job of heating up the space. I will say that the heat storm within about 5 minutes was already saying it was 75, and this one just now caught up. I will say the heat storm has done its job. I was reading through the directions and some of the troubleshooting tips. If over time your heat storm is no longer producing the kind of heat that you want, there's actually these side filters that you can just use these 2 clips and they actually can get pulled off. These can be washed either by hand or you can spray them down with the hose, make sure they're dry, and then you can put them right back in. I appreciate that the filters are so easily accessible. Of course, if I wasn't doing this left-handed, it'd be easier to put back on. because once you're done and clean and dry, you can snap them right back into place. In this video, we've been talking about the HeatStorm. It's a wall-mounted space heater, so what do we think of it? First things first, let's talk about that price point. As per this video, it retailed for just around $102, which in my opinion is a pretty decent price for a little space heater that does such a great job. Installing it into this wall was actually quick and easy, especially with the provided template, and setting it up to the app was also pretty much user-friendly. I appreciate that you can control all the different features either from the HeatStorm itself, from the app, or from the included remote control, because you know what? Why not have 3 different ways to control your heater? In the end, we always want to look to see if it actually did its job. And during this test, within 20 minutes, it was able to raise the temperature of the room by 10 degrees. In my opinion, that is pretty efficient. In the end, the only thing that was really frustrating for me was the plug was on the right side instead of the left side, but I guess I can live with that. That's my full review of the HeatStorm. If this is something that interests you, I will leave a link down in the description. This is Jeff with Jeff Reviews for You. As always, thanks for stopping by and hope you have a great day. Although we really didn't talk about it, they do include a remote control that you can operate everything that you can do from the screen or the app right here, with the exception of changing Fahrenheit to Celsius. But in my opinion, that is pretty convenient to have another way to control this heater. I really do appreciate that you stayed around for my entire review of the HeatStorm. You know what? Not that long ago, I actually reviewed another wall-mounted space heater, and that's by Drio. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link right up here that review so you can check it out. And by the magic of the internet, I'm going to join you at that review. So go ahead, click it. It's safe. I promise.